Star Wars is getting the anime treatment. It really looks like we're getting a new Dead Space game. Well, kinda. And how does Black Widow stack up to the rest of the MCU? All that and the latest into everything cool today in the Rundown. Hey, welcome to the Electric Playground. My name is Victor Lucas, and it is my pleasure to bring you the latest in everything cool, and that is thanks to our sponsors at the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments happening every single weekend that you don't want to miss out on. You can find out all about them and sign up at tgs.gg. Today's show is dedicated to Jeeves S., who wrote under the last rundown that we did. Housemarque and Nixies are going to be a great addition to the PlayStation Studios family, acquiring Bluepoint and maybe Sumo Digital, other studios with close ties to the Sony brand, seems like the next logical step in a series of calculated moves. Yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of chess moves taking place right now in the video game industry. Lots of acquisitions, lots of consolidation. It's going to be very interesting to see the types of games that we're going to get to play based on all of this movement out there. Great comment, Jeeves. All right, there's some pretty cool stuff happening in the Star Wars universe. Let's take a look. At Anime Expo Light, Lucasfilm and Disney released the trailer for Star Wars Visions. This is a collection of short animated films in the anime style made by Japanese filmmakers, and it looks incredibly cool. Star Wars is taking off in a bunch of different directions here. This is all interpretation, and it's fleshing out the galaxy in a bunch of interesting new ways with lots of characters that we've never seen before. There are 9 different anime films that are being created right now from different studios out there, like Kamikaze Douga making The Duel. There's Geno Studio Twin Engine making Lop and Ocho. We've got Tatooine Rhapsody, Trigger, The Twins, and Trigger's also making The Elder. We've got Kinema Citrus, The Village Bride, Science Saru making Akakiri, and Science Saru also is making TOB1, and then Production IG, The Ninth Jedi. Now, we don't know very much about what these stories are going to entail, but we do know that we're getting lots of Japanese-influenced storytelling through the lens of the Star Wars lore that we all know and love. It's fascinating to see how global the influence that Star Wars has had, and it also, it fits quite well because obviously Star Wars was influenced by Japanese cinema. George Lucas has often cited the Seven Samurai as one of his ideas for the Jedi and the conflict that exists between the Jedi and the Sith. Really looking forward to watching all of these anime short films that are coming up. Disney also put together a nice little behind the scenes on how these stories are being crafted and put together, and clearly a tremendous amount of love and passion and artistry is going to be a part of this series. I love seeing Disney and Lucasfilm kind of take off on these different types of tangents. I'm a huge fan of what they're doing already with Dave Filoni and his animated work and what's going on with the Star Wars shows like The Mandalorian and Boba Fett and stuff, but this is cool. This sort of, transposes the idea and says Star Wars is literally for everyone. We don't have long to wait. All of these animated shorts start dropping in September, so keep your eyes out for Star Wars Visions, and it'll be interesting to see if Star Wars Visions becomes some kind of a meta brand, and then we see other Star Wars interpretations from other parts of the world. But very excited to see at least this opening salvo for Star Wars Visions in September. Now, speaking of Star Wars, a video game studio that's been working in the galaxy far, far away might be making a game that's a little more terrifying. A lot of Dead Space rumors have been bubbling up all over the internet, and now it looks like EA Motive might be working on something related to Dead Space. Jeff Grubb over at GamesBeat has said that they are working on a reboot of the first Dead Space video game. There is some hope and some speculation out there that maybe we're going to get a Dead Space trilogy remaster, similar to what we just received with the Mass Effect trilogy remaster, but we don't know much yet. All we do know is that EA and the people that are running the Dead Space Twitter and YouTube accounts have changed the graphics, the logos on each of those different platforms. And of course, EA Play is coming out later this month, so some kind of an announcement might be imminent regarding Dead Space. I think it would be cool to have a remaster of the original trilogy, but honestly, I want something fresh and something new. I wasn't a huge fan of Dead Space 3. I mean, it clearly had the better technology and lots of iteration and lots of, learning that the developers at Visceral had put into making Dead Space 3. It crackled with some cool energy, but it really focused on action, and the first Dead Space game and the second one as well really were much more survival horror. They were really terrifying. Some of the most frightening video game experiences I've ever had. It wasn't just the monsters and the gory ways you could crush them. It was also that oppressive claustrophobia that, trying to survive on these space stations was all about. Incredible franchise. I am excited about the idea of a Dead Space 1 remaster, and I think there was great influence taken from what Capcom has recently been doing with their remakes, specifically with Resident Evil 2, and how successful that game was. So I see the idea behind this as a sound one, but I think would be even more excited if this was a lift, taking off on what Dead Space has done, but it's a new Dead Space. It's Dead Space 4 or a reboot of the whole franchise. The first game is exceptional. The second game is also incredible. They're certainly worthy candidates for an excellent remake with great new technology. I just hope that this isn't one and done, I hope that EA is saying, okay, well listen, we have this incredible IP that everybody that knows of it really loves it. Let's honor it and let's keep going with it and make some really cool Dead Space stuff for people to enjoy for years to come. But exciting stuff if it's true. Good on you, Motive. You've been kicking some serious butt with Star Wars Squadrons and the stuff that you did for Star Wars Battlefront 2. If this is true, excited to see what you do with Dead Space. Okay, that's enough space-related stuff to talk about right now. Let's get a little bit more into the espionage section of the MCU. Marvel's Black Widow movie premieres on July 9th after many, many delays during this pandemic, and it's a movie that I have been incredibly excited to finally watch. Disney shot me out a review code, so I was able to stream the film, and I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. But I also got to take part in a Black Widow press conference, which was attended by Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, Kate Shortland, the director of the film, and Kevin Feige. And I have to tell you, it was a real treat to be able to hear from all of these creators who put together a very, very enjoyable film. This is a much different tale in the MCU than what we've seen before. There isn't really a huge emphasis on superheroics and larger-than-life superpowers. It's much more spy-centric. Of course, everything is, it's like a Jason Bourne or a James Bond movie, amped up, not quite super serum, but maybe just below that. So some of the fight sequences and stuff that happen in this film, particularly when we see Black Widow going up against Taskmaster, get pretty ferocious, and there's quite a bit of airtime in the battles, and there's some stuff that's like super over the top in terms of characters leaping out of flying craft and then landing on falling debris and continuing to fight. But it is thrilling. What I was surprised about, though, with Black Widow was how emotionally connected it was. It reminded me a lot of The Americans TV show that stars Kerry Russell and Matthew Rhys, which is an excellent show if you've never watched The Americans, because we get a setup of a family that Natasha Romanoff understood and knew, but then had ripped out of her control. And we also dig deep into the really horrific backstory of Natasha Romanoff, who is a trained killer. She's been stripped of her humanity, and she's part of this elite assortment of young girls that are turned into trained killers. And we understand why the sort of evil overlord has been named Commander Dreykov, played by an excellent Ray Winstone, who is terrific as a villain, man. He is somebody that you really despise in this movie. So hats off to Mr. Winstone. He's a convincing scumbag. But you get a sense of, why this maniac has been able to utilize all of these girls as these tools for destruction all over the world. And the Black Widow army, all of these female assassins, really play convincingly on screen as well. The action is really slick in this thing. It reminds me a lot of what we saw in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So there's a kineticism, there is just this ferocity. It feels like it just won't stop, it's just relentless. and it's really cool. And to see Taskmaster in action as well, where you see the character kind of employ a lot of familiar beats from Marvel's superhero moves that we've seen in previous MCU films, that was absolutely a highlight. But at the heart of this movie, the reason why it works are all of these terrific character beats that are in there. Rachel Weisz is terrific as Melina. David Harbour almost walks away with the movie because he's so bloody funny as the Red Guardian, who, has this score to settle, this chip on his shoulder about Captain America, and it's just a delight. It's just a pure delight to watch him on screen. But honestly, Scarlett Johansson is terrific as the center of the film, and Florence Pugh, who plays her sorta like sister type character, Yelena Belova, she is fantastic in this movie. And she was kind of this unknown quantity. Obviously, a lot of the marketing has been focused on their dynamic and their relationship. And she's she's a rising star, and she's winning awards, and people are starting to recognize her name out there. But she's a new entry into the MCU like this. And she's got a really big platform in this film, and she totally delivers. She's poking holes and has a real sass and a great sense of humor about everything. The dynamic between Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson is just wonderful. It's great to see them on screen together.
Okay, you got a plan, or shall I just stay duck and cover?
My plan was to drive us away.
Well, your plan sucks.
Honestly, this kind of weird family that David Harbour and Rachel Weisz and Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson kind of concoct together, create together, is just so charming, Like, all of the action stuff is really fun. It's got echoes of things that we've seen in previous MCU. It doesn't get as big or as epic as things we might see in a Thor film or an Avengers massive mega team-up movie or something like that. But it does scale quite large. There is some, super catastrophic elements and moments in this film for sure. But the reason why I enjoyed it so much is I just liked watching all of these performers on screen together. They're terrific in their roles, and they're terrific as a group trying to, figure out how to solve the issues and the problems that they're facing within the story here. It's not perfect. It's not my favorite of the MCU films, but I think it fits up snugly with the Captain America flicks that I really, really love. And I think it was something that needed to happen with the Black Widow character. I think Scarlett Johansson has just been such a rock-solid contributor to the MCU all the way along. She's an interesting character from the comics, and Scarlett Johansson's portrayal has been great all the way. And I felt like this movie, although it's not the full sort of celebration of what the role is, it's definitely a step in the right direction. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing more MCU prequel movies. I wouldn't mind seeing another Black Widow movie. I don't know if that's even possible or that's going to happen. But, it was great to lose myself in this espionage-tinged, character-rich story. Black Widow is a blast. And if you're a Marvel fan, an MCU fan, I think you're going to have a big smile on your face. I really enjoyed this one. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow with a fresh episode for you. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button and that little bell to be notified. Thank you so much to all of our EPN members. You guys are incredible. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, play forever.